फोन पड़ा के इस पर बंद बैठ देना। नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स। नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स। नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स। बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि, धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि, संघं शरणं गच्छामि। Time saranam ananyam buddho me saranam varam etena satchavadrena bhavatu me jayamangalam. Nati me saranam anyam dhammo me saranam varam etena satchavadrena bhavatu te jayamangalam. Nati me saranam anyam sangho me saranam varam etena satchavadrena bhavatu sarvamangalam. We'll do some chanting. This is the chanting of sublime attitudes. We have done it on once earlier also. So I'll read out paragraph by paragraph, so that the English translation we will read later. Kindly join. Aham sukhito homi, nidukho homi, aviro homi, avyapajja homi, anigo homi, sukhi attanam pariharami. May I be happy, may I be free from stress and pain, may I be free from animosity, may I be free from oppression, may I be free from trouble, may I look after myself with ease. Sarve satta sukhita hontu, sarve satta avira hontu, sarve satta avyapajja hontu, sarve satta aniga hontu, sarve satta sukhi attanam pariharantu. May all living beings be happy, may all living beings be free from animosity, may all living beings be free from oppression, may all living beings be free from trouble, may all living beings look after themselves with ease. Sabbe satta, sabbe dukkha pamucchantu. May all living beings be free from all stress and pain. Sabbe satta laddha sampattito ma viggachantu. May all living beings not be deprived of the good fortune they have attained. Sabbe satta kammasakara kammadayada kammayini kammabandhu kammapatisarana yam kammam karissanti kalyanam va papakam va tasya dayada bhavissanti. All living beings are owners of their actions, heir to their actions, born of their actions, related to their actions, and live dependent on their actions. Whatever they do for good or for evil, to that they will fall heir. Sabbe satta sada hontu, avera sukhya jivino, katham punya phalam mahyam, sabbe bhagi bhavantu te. May all living beings happily, always free from animosity, may all share in the blessings springing from the good I have done. The our Sutta is 11th Sutta, 4th chapter, Kala Vivada Sutta. How does Kala and Vivada arise? How does disputation and ill will arise? It's again, the background is similar to the previous Sutta. So to the question, Kuto Pahuta Kalaha Vivada, whence happen quarrels and disputes, along with bewailment, anxiety and jealousy, together with normal and abnormal pride as well as backbiting. But the answer was that all these 8 types of depravity, beginning with Kalaha Vivada, have their origin in fond love, that is piya or affection, result of greed, which again has sprung from longing, owing to such desires as starting with the desire for sensual pleasures. People wander about with greed, dependent upon pleasant and unpleasant feelings, desire arises. After having seen the appearance and disappearance in visible objects, thus the Blessed One brought his teaching to the conclusion with arahantship as its climax. At the end of the discourse, there was realization of the truth on the part of numberless number of divine beings, resembling what happened at the end of teaching of Pura Veda Sutta. It's quite an interesting sutta. It has reference to many deep, profound points of.
So, निमित्त बुद्ध क्या है ये?
उसमें भी था ना कि that he created, the Buddha created to give teaching to the divine beings. He created a number of monks there. In this case, it is निमित्त अपनी तरफ से बना दिए जो would go there and answer the questions. Here it is written, asked by the Nimitta Buddha. There it was that Buddha went, sent his double, if you may use that word, and created a set of monks to ask him these questions, which were there in the minds of the Devas. So he answered them.
So that's the same thing happening?
Same thing, similar thing happening here.
So the audience is who?
Devas, primary. But to give them good feeling, audience of monks has also been created.
I see.
So it looks quite fantastic on the face of it, but that's the way it is. So first is the question, then there are the answers. Kuto pahuta kalaha vivada paridev soka sahmacharacha manati mana sahpe sunacha kuto pahuta te tadinga brudi. Kuto pahuta means how do they arise? Kalaha and vivad, how do contentions and disputes arise? Paridev soka means lamentation, sorrow, sahmacharacha together with envy, mana atimana, pride and conceit, sahpaisunacha along with slander, kuto pahuta te tadinga bhuvi. How do these all spring up? Please tell me. This is the question which is asked. Then there are the answers.
Priye papuhuta kalha vivada parideva soka saha machara cha mahanatimana saha penusu cha macharayuta kalha vivada viva tajesu cha
Pesuna.
pesunami.
Pesuna is a slender joke. It's one of the when we take the Musavada Veramani, that has Pesuna also. So, Piya Pahuta, from Priya, or affection, from affection arises Kalaha and Vivada. Parideva Soka, this is lamentation, sorrow and envy, arrogance, conceit. It's just a repetition of what was there in the. Because जो question पूछा वही जवाब देना है ना. Contentions, disputes, along with envy, and there is slander in the disputes which have arisen. So the reason is ascribed to affection, dear objects, out of affection to people, objects, whatever.
Or even perception.
Yeah, whatever is dear. It's of course generally affection is towards
Physical.
To them it is attachment, mental thoughts. Your turn.
Piyasu lokasmin kuto nidana ye chapi lobha vicharanti loke asa cha nithacha kuto nidana ye samparaya narasa hunti.
So then he is continuing the questions, one after another. So if the affection is caused, then he says, Piyos lokasmin kuto nidana. What is the cause of affection in this world, how do they originate? Ye chapi lobha vicharanti loke, and as a result of which there prevails greed in this world. Ashach and nitthach kuto nidana, and where do they desire and kind of perfect achievements, how do we consider desire and achievements, how do they originate? Ye samparaya narasya honti, on which we base our future, on achievements and desires.
Chandani danani piyani loke, ye chapi lobha vicharanti loke, asa cha nitha cha ito nidana, ye samparayaya narasya hunti.
So answer is in the first line, rest is repetition. You will see. Chanda nidanani piyani loke. So from the wish originate the dear objects in this world. The affection originates from some wish or desire. And all the greed and the achievements, everything originates from that wish. So then he says, how does Chanda rise? Chandodun lokosmin kuto nidana, vinichcha chapi kuto pahuta, kodho musa vachancha katham cha kathacha, yevapi dhamma samane nubutta. So from what does the wish originate? And then other things he also adds questions. Vinichchaya chapi kuto pahuta, and how do the theories and spring up? Various kinds of theories spring up. Kodho musa vachacha, anger and falsehood. Katham kathacha, and doubt and confusion. How do they originate? And ye vapi dhamma samanena gutta, and all other mental factors which have been spoken of by the samana, how do these originate?
Satang asatani yamhu loke tamu panisaya pahoti chando rupesu disva vibhavam avancha विनिश्चयम कुभाति जंतु लोके.
सातम मतलब प्लेजर है, जो अच्छा लगता है. सातम असातंति यमाहु लोके. So whatever you call as pleasure and displeasure, by that tam upanissaya pahoti chando. From that basis this wish arises, desire arises. Obviously desire to maximize pleasure, desire to minimize displeasure. Rupeshu disva vibhavam bhavancha, and seeing that the forms arise and pass away. Vinichchaya kubbanti pajantu loka. So people make all kinds of theories about them. People are arising, dying, क्यों पैदा हो रहे हैं, क्यों मर रहे हैं, कब पैदा हो रहे हैं. That's how theories begin to arise. These metaphysical speculations, they arise from there.
Kodho mosa vachan vajancha katham kathacha ete pidhamma dvayamev sante katham kathi jnana pathaye sikhe jnatva pavutta samanena dhamma.
Kodho, krodh, musavajan, falsehood. Katham katha means doubt. So anger, falsehood and doubt. Etepi dhamma, these mental factors. Dvamev sante, they arise due to duality. Katham kathi jnana pathaya sikhe. So to those who are under doubt, let them learn the knowledge. They learn in the way of knowledge. Jnatva pavutta samanena dhamma. And the samana has declared these truths after realization. He's not talking of theory. So theories की बात थी ना. So to make it clear.
Satam asatanch kuto nidana, kismim asante na bhavanti hete, vibhavam bhavan chapi yamet mattam, etam me pabruhi yato nidana.
Satam asatanch kuto nidan. How do the pleasure and displeasure arise? What is their origin? Kismim kasante na bhavanti hete. For want of these will not arise. Vibhavam bhavancha yamet mattham. This understanding of decay and origin arising and passing away. Etam pabruhi yato nidanam. What is the cause of this? Please tell me. Phassa nidanam satam asatam. Phasse asante na bhavanti hete. Vibhavam bhavanchapi yameta atham. Etam te prabrumi ito nidanam. So, phassa is the cause. Phassa means contact, sense contact with the world. So, pleasure and displeasure arise from phassa. When there is no phassa, no contact, they don't arise. And this notion of decay and origin has its origin in this contact.
Phassu no lokasmi kuto nidano parigaha chapi kuto bahuta kismin asante na mama tathamati
Mama attamati.
mam atmati kismin vibhuti na pusanti phassa.
Phasso no lokasmin kuto nidana. How does this phassa originate? Parigaha chapi kuto pahuta. And how does this springing and grasping of the phassa arise? Kismim asante namamattamati. And for what is there which if it is not there, there will be no ego. Namattamati. Kismin vibhuti na pusanti phassa. And by cessation of what will the phassa not happen?
नामंच रूपंच पतिच्छ पस्सो इच्छा निदानी परिघाहामि इच्छाया संताय ना मम अट्ठमथि रूपे विभूते ना संति पस्सस.
So this actually you can see paticca samutpad being repeated. Namancha rupancha paticca phasso. The phassa originates from name and form. Ichcha nidanani pariggahani, and grasping its origin on wanting. Grasping is because we have bound something. Ichchaya santaya namamathamati. By cessation of wanting, there will be no egoism. No ego. Rupe vibhute na pusanti phassa. And by cessation of form, there will be no contact.
कथं समीपस्य विभूति रूपं सुखं दुःखं चापि कथं विभूति एतं मे पब्रूहि यथा विभूति तं जानीयामाति मे मनो अहु.
Katham samatesa vibhoti rupam. So this rupa form, how will it, by doing what will it cease? Sukham dukham cha katham vibhoti. And how do joy and suffering cease to exist? Etam me prabhuhi, please tell this to me. Yatha vibhoti, how do these cease? Tam janayamati me manoahu. It is, I would like to know this. Actually, literal translation is, this is what is I want to, in my mind, that I want to know why is it happening. Na sanya sanni, na visanya sanni, nopi asanni, na vibhuti sanni, evam samete sa vibhoti rupam, sanya nidana hi papancha sankha. This verse has been subject of huge research and discussions. What does it mean? Because it's a very kind of sutra mein rakhi hui baat. Na sanya sanni, neither with ordinary perception, no visanya sanni, nor with disordered perception, nopi asanni, nor with without perception, na vibhuti sanni, nor with annihilation of perception. Evam samte sa vibhoti rupam. This is how form ceases to exist. Sanya nidana hi papancha sankhya. Because it is because of perception that the whole prapancha is created. It is perception which is the source of all kinds of concepts which are created by proliferation of concepts. So this, what does this papancha sanya sankhya has been a subject of lot of discussion, and all kinds of funny translations were made. Finally, Venerable Nanananda has made a proper translation of it, which is conceptual proliferation. Prapancha becoming, giving rise to things, the confusion. So, which we happen when we think about something, then perceive something. If you see something and perceive, then immediately thoughts will start, associated thoughts will start. So that is what is meant by Panchasanya. So he said one should have no perception, neither perception nor not perception. Now what does it mean? Having perception, not having perception. So the reference which has been finally made, it is actually referencing to Anidassana Vijnana experienced by Arhat. Because there, perception is a mental factor associated with consciousness. So when there is consciousness which is unmanifest, then this kind of experience can be had. So the Lord has taken all of them to the understanding of Nibbana, the Anidassana Vijnana. How do, only in that state will there be, neither perception will be there, nor there will be no perception. Either it will be proper perception or it will be improper perception. It is gone beyond it. Because the Vijnana itself has not manifested. Normally Vijnana manifests through us. So in that state, there is an unmanifest Vijnana, and therefore there is no perception. This is how the form will cease, because when there is no Vijnana, no form perception, nothing is being experienced. One is free from the Nama-rupa.
So is it saying that there is no conceptual proliferation?
Yeah. And there is no conception at all. Perception itself is not there. It's just seeing.
Yeah.
Okay.
जैसे कहते हैं दिट्ठमत्तम भविष्यति, just seeing में seeing है.
Yeah.
That also is, of course, see, there is still consciousness. So
basically,
but he is saying that you have transcended that domain. Consciousness has not landed anywhere.
Okay. So is this right to say that seeing doesn't leads to proliferation?
Yeah, that will be. But he is saying not only that, let there not be any perception of any kind. So this is explained as a state of an arhant when he experiences Anidassana Vijnana. When he is cut off from all the senses are cut, but still he is alive. He is alive because there is a spark of, he is experiencing that unmanifest consciousness. Whatever you can make out of it. Unmanifest को कैसे make out करेंगे? How can we manifest? We know only manifest consciousness. I am speaking because of manifest consciousness. You are hearing because of manifest consciousness. So this is Venerable Nyanananda was supposed to be a greatest scholar monk of Sri Lanka. This is his, which is now generally accepted by most people, that he is giving the right understanding. So let me complete it then. Yam tam apuchhamha akityano anyam tam puchhama tadinsanga bruhi etavatam vadanti heke yakhasya suddhim idapapanditasya udahu anyam api vadanti eto. Now I think the questioner has got the answer. Now he is having some other doubt, because of his past, the commentary says because of his past belief in soul, belief in an entity. So he asks this question. Whatever you have asked us, you have explained to us. That's fine. Now we'll ask you, Anyam tam puchhami. And I'll ask you another question. Please answer that. Etavatanga no vadanti heke. Do some people who are considered to be wise tell us that this is the highest purification of the being? So he's only walking about the being and his purification. So शुद्धि का उनका मन है कि एक आदमी है, एक प्राणी है, उसकी शुद्धि होनी चाहिए, and highest purification is the best. So he's trying to relate this concept to the purification of beings. So he says, do some who are considered wise tell us that this is the highest purification, or do they say something different from it? Buddha's answer also is amazing. Na? Etavatagam pivadanti heke yakhasya suddhim ida panditasya tesham paneka samayam vadanti anupadissesa kusala vadana. There are some, etavatanpi vadanti heke. They say this is the highest. There are some who consider this to be the highest thing. This is the highest purification of being, whatever he has explained. But some of them say that the highest purity lies in anupadeshe kushalavadami, that in cessation without any substrata, within complete annihilation. Some others say like that. So what does he say? Etecha nyatva upanissatanti nyatva muni nissayasu vimasanti vimamsi nyatva vimutto na vivadameti bhava bhavaya na sameti dhiyo. Now, etecha nyatva upanissatanti. Upanishad, you remember? Dependent. So knowing that these are dependent on all speculative views, nyatva muni nissayano vimamsi. The sage who has got that vimamsi, discriminative knowledge of these views, nyatva vimutto na vivadameti. He is completely liberated through knowledge. So he doesn't enter into disputes on all this. Bhava bhavaya na sameti dhiro. So the truly wise man does not fall into any type of existence. Bhavaya, vibhav, nothing. He is freed from all of that. And that's how he does not get into any disputes. Whether there is, this is the highest purification or it is not the highest purification, he is not bothered, because he has seen through knowledge that he is got freed. He is completely emancipated, completely freed from knowledge. Vimutto, he has become free. So once he is free, there is no dispute with anybody. So that's how Kalha Vivada will end finally, when he will become Arhant. Till that time, the tendency of discussion and contention will remain. So this is the Kalahavivada Sutta. Good. Any question from anybody?
No question.
No.
सर ऑलमोस्ट हर चीज के लिए ये होता है कि अरहंत जब बनेंगे तो ये चीज नहीं रहेगी, सीज होगी, तो फिर तब तक क्या होगा?
नहीं, उससे पहले ही बहुत सारी चीजें हो जाएंगी. Even Shotapanna will have given up personality view, he would have given up. ये तो बिल्कुल perfection की बात हो रही है ना. When there is no doubt of any kind, when there is no agitation of any kind, when there is no sense of I at all, not just Sakkaya even mana and Atimana, conceit has been given up totally. That even notion I am, even that notion is given up. So then kaun kisse baat karega? So that is talking of the highest purification, the highest attainment in that sense. तो जिसको कि वो purification समझने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि भाई मैं तो हूँ ही, हाँ मैं प्यूरीफाई हो गया, तो समझ नहीं आता ना कि मैं ही नहीं हूँ तो प्यूरीफाई कौन हो रहा है. इट इज एटर्नल इशू. एक अभी IIT कानपुर के प्रोफेसर हैं फिलोसफी के, उन्होंने पेपर लिखा कि अद्वैता और उसका सामनैलिटी बनाने की कोशिश की. तो मुझे कल गया था मैं IIT में, तो प्रोफेसर गॉड ने दिया था, वो पढ़ा था, मैंने उसको पढ़ा था. तो उसमें भी यही क्वेरी थी कि आफ्टर ऑल एम्प्टीनेस का किसी को तो एक्सपीरियंस होता ही होगा. Now, if you have that as a basis, then you come to wrong conclusions because you're not understood. अगर practice करेंगे तो पता चलने लगता है कि things are happening है, अपने आप हो रहा है.
Even this Anidasan Vijnana, there's a few small moments you can get. It's within our realm of experience.
I don't think so.
No, you don't.
Because it means consciousness is not manifest at all. It does not land anywhere. Any जो भगवान ने उसका सिमिली दिया ना, जो इसने भिक्खु ज्ञानानंद ने एक्सप्लेन किया. There is a sutta where he talks of say because the light is coming from this window, and where will it land? They say they will land on the floor. Say suppose there is no floor, okay, they will land on the opposite wall. There is no wall, then where will it land? If there is no wall nowhere, it will not land anywhere. So this is the analogy he says of consciousness which is unmanifest. There is, but it is not landing in anywhere because there is no being at all. So person is and not is. That kind of a conundrum is there. Perception nahi hai, nothing is operating. No sense door is operating. No form is operating. But he is not dead. So that Nidarsana Vijnana would therefore be an experience when all the sense doors we have transcended. None of the sense doors is operative in the normal sense.
So that does happen in one of the jhanic states.
It happens after fourth jhana. After fourth jhana, but that is a state which has been contrived by mental force. Na? So this is a state in which the purification of the being is complete. Conceit, all that has been removed. While doing jhana, you have that I am doing. So I remains there. That's why he says, after fourth jhana, if you contemplate, you will be free. Anand ban jayega.
So there is a question from Nirmala Sudhakar's wife. Personality view gone means that the person has reached Bhang Jnana at the minimum from the physical body point of view.
See, Visuddhimagga mentions about this Bhanga Jnana, but it's not a compulsory thing. Because most of us who have meditated deeply, experienced Bhanga Jnana, we didn't give up our personality. We instead took up as an achievement. Oh, see, अब तो ये भी हो गया. अब तो जो गुरुजी ने कहे थे सारे स्टेज हो गए, भंग भी हो गए, आप कह रहे हैं. So we ascribed it to ourselves, though it should have been used to understand that body is not me, mind is not me. But if you don't analyze, investigate that phenomena deeply and then kind of absorb it, it won't happen just by one contemplation and that experience. At that experience we learn proper things from there deeply.
Really, during that experience, if we can remember and contemplate at that point.
Just remembering is not sufficient. I have done it. I remember very vividly. So many times I would remember it, but deep inside there will be a feeling, बहुत अच्छा हो रहा है. पता ही नहीं चलता ना. Superficially, I could see that, superficially I was remembering, oh, it's also impermanent, I should not get attached, I should not do this. But deep inside, there was a enjoyment of that experience. तो वो भी पता चल जाता था. पहली बार नहीं, दूसरी बार. तो पहली बार तो नहीं, पता ही नहीं चला क्या हो रहा है. तो फिर वो अपने को समझाते रहे, कंटेम्पलेट करते रहे. But next time तो then I could see, ऊपर से कह रहा हूँ मैं.
So just, I think using just the words to explain oneself is not sufficient.
In fact, living that is important.
Living that.
In day-to-day life, that is important.
More than cushion.
Yeah. What we learn from experience is important. Experience is not important. We have given it too much importance.
So there is this subsequent question that what investigation needs to be done subsequent to the experience?
Who is having the experience? That is the question. That is the key inquiry. Who is having this experience? Am I having the experience? And this can be done even in simple way. You're just sitting. This is how we practice anatta. This is how we practice. We can someday do that. You're just sitting. So if you wish to follow meditative process. In fact, yesterday only it occurred to me that I was listening to the other discourse or whatever, talk of Ji and other people a few days back. Then yesterday while meditating, it just occurred to me, let me remember the Satipatthana Sutta and follow that strictly. So what is the first thing? Vinaya loke. That is the first thing he says, na? Vinaya loke avidyado manasyam. So what does it mean? All attachment to or aversion to loka. You just put it aside. He doesn't say हटा दो. I mean उसको खत्म हो जाएगी. Just put. Vinaya means put it aside. So you put it aside. Now when you are sitting, let's say, okay, let me consciously decide I will not think. I mean, of course, it doesn't matter my saying so nahi hone wala hai. But I consciously decide, okay, I'll put it aside now. For the time being, whatever is there, all my stories are put aside. I have made a conscious resolution. That's it. Then he says, sit and see. Kaya anupassana. Okay, ठीक है, बैठ जाते हैं. Let's see what's going on. Now when you see, then you can see what's happening. What is there? Suppose you sit all like that. Some experience is happening. Then you reflect, who is experiencing? What is the experience? Okay, because of the practice, some sensations are being felt in the body. Who is feeling it? I know, the Dhamma tells me it is Kaya Vijnana which is arising. Where are you? You are nowhere there. Feelings are arising, Vedana is arising, because along with consciousness that is arising. And then the whole thing drops off. You just be there, okay. Just observe, let's be with it. So that's how we practice again and again and again and again, so that the point is driven home. So if we are in Bhanga, we can practice deeply. Very deeply we can penetrate, body is not me and all.
Because the experience is happening.
Experience is happening.
And at that
moment then if you inquire, who is experiencing? We don't do that. Who is experiencing? Who is experiencing that? Mind will get just blank because we don't know. There's no one who's experiencing. Experience is happening. Who is experiencing breath? Breath is going. Who is breathing? Let's just reflect and sit and see. Breath is going, coming in. Who is breathing? Am I breathing?
The question is that Kaya Vijnana gives the sense, I am seeing. How to get over it?
So we remember it, that Kaya Vijnana, because we have studied Abhidhamma. What is the purpose of all that study? This is the purpose. We have now understood, it is so that, Madhu Pindaka Sutta is the best thing to remember. I actually recall that. Kaya cha paticche, potambha cha upajjati kaya vijnana. Dependent on kaya and touch arises kaya vijnana. Tinnam sangati phassa, coordination of them, phassa pachaya vedana. So that's how it is happening. There is kaya, there is touch, there is feeling, there is phassa, there is feeling. I am nowhere there in the picture. And with hearing, it is much more easily done with hearing. You're just sitting. Who is hearing? It's happening. You're not hearing. If you say, I will not hear. Stop it and see whether you can stop. Eyes are open. Who is seeing? You try it and stop. Keep eyes open and stop seeing. We don't have that ability because it's happening automatically. Consciousness is operating. If the conditions are right, consciousness will arise. You try your best not to see. It's impossible. So you understand, मैं नहीं देख रहा है, अपने आप ही हो रहा है. मैं तो देखना ही नहीं चाहता इस कमबख्त की शक्ल को, लेकिन वो सामने खड़ा है तो क्या करूं? मैं तो सुनना ही नहीं चाहता तुम्हारी बात, लेकिन क्या करूं? सुनना पड़ रहा है, मजबूर हूं, because it's happening on its own.
The thoughts?
See, the thoughts are arising because I don't want to think. Who wants to think all these nasty things which come up to our meditation? Who is interested? We want, यार शांति से बैठे ध्यान करें ना. All funny things keep on happening.
So Silesh has this question that once you see XYZ is happening, then what takes us back to I?
Because that is not,
fully
entrenched, fully. It has to be practiced again and again and again, so that the genetic conditioning is hamari.
In real life situations,
Yeah.
I think the key is practicing in real life situations versus only on the cushion.
The cushion practice will give us confidence that this is true. पहले तो ये कॉन्फिडेंस चाहिए ना कि हाँ सचमुच में ऐसा. नहीं तो अगर हमने ये सब नहीं पढ़ा है, we have not reflected on it deeply, how will you understand all this?
So the Sileshi says, who is practicing if it's all is a process?
Yeah, because I have I'm not an Arant, so I have that notion of I. No? How can I deny it? So I am practicing it. So that's the key thing. I am practicing it to see through the illusion. Periodically I get into illusion. I mean, most of the time I get into notion of I. But when I practice, I see, oh, that's a delusion. So there is a seeing of the delusion. By repeatedly seeing it, repeatedly, you get through.
I think there are moments when one sees oneself caught, and then for those moments, one sort of.
Whenever you meditate, if you deeply relate it to Madhupindaka Sutta, it helps enormously. All the experience you investigate, because हम वो धम्म विचय नहीं करते ना. Unless we do dhamma vichaya, the panya will not arise. That's the Buddha's clear injunction. Panya will arise by dhamma vichaya, by investigation, the experience. Dhamma vichaya means breaking apart your experience. And that is the meaning, literal meaning of dhamma vichaya is to vichayan karna, usko tod ke dekhna. Jo dhamma means the experience jo ho raha hai. So you see what is happening. This is my delusion that I am seeing. This is my delusion that I am hearing or I am speaking. So you slowly. It's such a strongly entrenched conditioning that it's not just by seeing once it will happen. This is the difficulty with the non-dualistic teachers. So समझा देंगे एक बार, तो you're समझ आ गया यार. So self has realized, yeah. Okay, now practice it, it will become strong. But you have already realized it. Now that's getting too simplistic about it. So of course, if you see it technically, you can say it, but you're not realizing the transcendent nature. You're only actually realizing that there is a kaya vijnana arising. And you're not able to see that in that sense of transcendence. You can say, okay, when I am sitting, what is happening? There is a kaya vijnana arising, there is a feeling arising. There is also an awareness that I am feeling it. That second level of awareness. So that second level of awareness, they say, is self. There is the real pure chitta or pure consciousness which is giving you that. And therefore you have experienced it, so you become self-realized. So it is so simple, therefore you become realized. And then if you give suggestions, then those suggestions will begin to happen. It gives a sense of happiness, no? It gives a sense of peace at that time, for those moments, because we have put aside Vinaya Loke Abhijjado, then that whole Abhijjado thing will come up. You move out of that and all that will come up like a huge tsunami. So that practice again and again and again. So in that sense, if you understand that, yeah, okay, you do that kind of a practice again and again, then it will get transformation of psyche will begin to happen. So to that extent is fine. So we should not prematurely conclude. That's the point. Prematurely conclude karna theek nahi.
Sir, there is this question from Meenakshi ji that as long as mind is present, I-ness remains, but all experiences are known by mind. How to break mind?
The I-ness is much deeper concept. I-ness to rahegi. First we are operating at Sakkaya Ditthi, which is comparatively easier. I mean comparatively, finally I am not saying easy at all. First is getting out of identification with the five khandas. Even after that, the notion of I remains now. Notion of I will go only at Arhant, so we can keep it in our mind. But the simpler thing is that we see through the operation of the five khandas. What are these five khandas? So you're operating constantly. The operation of Vijnana, the operation of Vedana, the arising and passing away of Vijnana, arising, passing away of Vedana, arising and passing away of Sankhara, arising, passing away of Sanya. And for most of us, sanya is the biggest. After vijnana is of course the real catch. And sanya is another very big real catch in day-to-day life actually. This is sanya nidana. Sanya is really the big problem which creates such a obsession with us. We take, I am right. Sanya means perception. My perception is right, and therefore you get into conflict with everybody. So attachment to sanya, I have discovered, is extremely strong, extremely high. खासतौर पर जो intellectual वर्ग है, those who reflect and teach and study, they get into big problem. This is right. You remember एक सुत्ता हमने पढ़ा था ना पिछली बार. People say that my think is right, your think is not right. Those who think of this, even if it is right, it means they are wrong. So he says, even if you are grasping the right thing, you are doing a wrong thing. Because the Dhamma is to be used as a raft, not for grasping. हम लोगों को कितनों को लगता है बच्ची साधकों के, बाकी सारे लोग तो मूर्ख हैं, तो बेचारे उनका तो कुछ नहीं हो सकता, क्या करें? Because we are grasping our view that this is the right way and everything else is wrong, without knowing what they are doing, without knowing how they are doing. So perception हो जाता है ना, because of our conditioning. सालों तक हमने सुना है, सालों तक साधना की है, साधना से लाभ हुआ है, we have benefited from that. Then we begin to feel that okay, this is the way. Before that we were doing something else, then we didn't benefit, now we benefit. Now we think that therefore by inference nobody will benefit by that, isn't it? That's how inferences are formed. So that's why Buddha says all perceptions are mirage, don't take it seriously. So that sutta is also another very powerful sutta which I remember all the time. Fena Sutta. Very powerful. So it brings you down. So that because if you think that my perception is right, then conflict is assured. And you can never get out of Sakkaya Ditthi. Never. Whatever you may, कितनी भी साधना कर लो, कितने ध्यान लगा लो, you will never get out. Sakkaya Ditthi में तो पकड़े गए ना.
So there is this question from Nimla ji, that anicca can be experienced by observing sensations. Anicca can be experienced by observing sensations, but anatta is possible only with inquiry. Who is experiencing? Is that correct?
Anicca can be experienced by sensations, very right. And it can be experienced, this is Ajjata Bahidda. Experiencing anicca Bahidda is extremely important. And experiencing anicca in day-to-day life is very important. When something goes wrong in my life, do I take it as anicca or do I take it personally? That is the key thing. Observing sensations is comparatively easy, I think. Suppose it's a child's play. You know, observe sensations, तो बदलती रहती है, पता है.
And that becomes in a controlled environment.
And you know, it's quite obvious. You are sitting. अब मैं बैठा हूँ इतनी देर से, तो मैंने पाँव हिलाया ना, इसीलिए हिलाया ना कि वहाँ पे sensations change हो गई. The key thing is, in my understanding and experience, that in day-to-day life, when things go haywire or things go very good, you get a 30% raise. Can you remember anicca? At that time.
उल्टे में तो आता है सर, जब रेस बहुत कम मिलती है, तो जबरदस्त.
That is where the real issue lies. So this is what I interpret as the traditional जो हमारा था ना, दुख में सुमिरन सब करें, सुख में करे ना कोई. You translate sumiran into mindfulness. This is exactly what it means. When we are happy, we are not mindful at all. We just forget. We forget about impermanence. We forget about dukkha. We forget about everything. Success हो गई ना, why bother? When we are enjoying, do we remember that it is anicca? Can we remember that? Okay, that moment, that grasping will immediately fall down. So that is in fact very important for really strengthening anicca. Sensations observing certainly very helpful, no doubt about it. What should be done, because otherwise sensations से ही आदमी साधक जो उसी में फंस जाता है. Sensations pleasant हो गई, उसी में फंस जाएगा. But in day-to-day life, we have the real test is there. Everything is falling apart. Can I remain peaceful? Anicca है, ठीक.
The measure of how much calm you can remain,
That's it.
will determine how much you have really understood.
Vayan Sumedu example देते हैं ना, that lotus in the center of an inferno. So you have to be at the center point. Don't be in the circumference. That's the kind of word you use. No? If you are on the circumference of a wheel, then you are spinning around all the time. If you remain in the center, wheel is rotating. You are just seeing. That's where our anicca gets tested. That's where our the whole Dhamma gets into. Those are the opportunities really for checking that we are really getting that insight of anicca.
So Silesh has this another question, that isn't perception a needed ingredient in our meditation?
Yeah, perception is in our day-to-day life, yes. In meditation, you remember we had studied Girimananda Sutta? So that perception is needed. Anicca sanya, dukkha sanya, anatta sanya, adinava sanya, all those sanyas are needed. Our normal sanya is, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. That is what traps us. That's why Buddha says all perceptions are mirage. But what is the correct perception? Anicca sanya. That is absolutely perfect. उसमें कोई doubt नहीं है किसी को भी. Whatever we experience is anicca. So that is anicca sanya. He says this is the way you get freed from the sanya. We can't just throw away कि नहीं मैं sanya नहीं करूँगा. अच्छा मैंने decide कर लिया I will have no sanya. It's not possible. You are totally trapped in the. ये तो this will arise. You know that Abhidhamma में हमने पढ़ा ना. They are all going to arise. Sanya is going to arise. You have to transform it from the normal pleasure, unpleasant, displeasure, governed by pleasure, pain principle. We transform the sanya into anicca sanya, dukkha sanya, adinava sanya, anatta sanya. Then the same sanya will become liberation. It will take us to liberation. If that's why उसमें एक समय मैंने पहले भी शायद चर्चा की थी ना, that the thing which I find very helpful is just to remember whenever you start getting carried away, whichever way, positive, negative, suffering, happiness, nahi tad mam, nahi so ahem, na me so atta.
This is not me, not mine.
That is just put you away from the grasping of that. Every experience you can put away. So, one line nirvana जो है ना, भगवान बुद्ध दासा का यही है. And Buddha himself says it to a देवता जो कहता है मेरे पास ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं है, ब्रीफ में बताना. Tell me in one sentence what practice I should do. Says this is sabbe dhamma nalam abnivesa. See. Go.
क्या है सभ्य धम्मा?
Sabbe dhamma nalam abnivesa. See. All dhammas, whatever experience you have, do not nalam abnivesh. उसको अपना मत, अपने उसके साथ अभिनिवेश मत करो. Don't grasp it as me, mine, myself. Just do this practice. Nothing. He doesn't tell him to do anapana or do satipatthana or do, and that insist कि वही एक तरीका है भाई, उसके बगैर तो कुछ नहीं हो सकता. He doesn't tell him that.
This is that third point that Aya Khema was making yesterday, that just by sheer contemplation of
every experience which you have, dissociate. Don't take it personally. That's the key thing. You can interpret it like that. अभिनिवेश का मतलब है ना जिसको आप समझते हुए मेरा है, मैं हूँ, मेरे, अभिनिवेश हो गया, उसके साथ चिपक गया. So don't take it personally. I mean, if you just remember this, don't take our life personally. That's it. If every moment we can do that, if every moment I cannot take my life personally, what more do I want? Nothing. There's nothing to be done. You're free. You're no longer a person. So this reflection is of deep help. That's why Buddha stresses us on to reflect on so many things. 5 reflections, जैसे हमने पढ़े भी थे ना, 5 reflections every to be done by every householder and monk every day.
So there is this question once with reference to Giridhamana Sutta जो आपने बताया. So among the 10 sannyas, why Anapanasati is added?
Because that is also a perception of the breath going in, going out. And it has its own value in raising one to the level of enlightenment. If you find Anapanasati Sutta, if you study, Anapana practice done according to that will lead to complete liberation from all suffering. So Anapana is the perception of breath coming in, breath going out. That also is knowing, no? That's how I see. I don't know. That's how I've tried to understand myself. Good, so let us move further with our last time we had done. How much we had done? Do you remember? I think Sankhara Pachya Vinyanam, isn't it? Rebirth and all that we had done. Avidya Pachya Sankhara, Sankhara Pachya Vinyanam. Yeah, आगे भी किया था क्या? याद ही नहीं है, because I have been doing it at so many forums and reflecting on it myself, so I don't even remember where we stopped last time. You remember?
Sir, I think ये हो गया था अभी.
संघार पच्चय विज्ञानम तो हो गया था, क्योंकि रिवर्स की बात की थी ना काफी देर तक. ये different planes of rebirth and to being born with the 2 roots or 3 roots, we had discussed it. And that 3 roots are possible only in wholesome chitta. Unwholesome तो 2 ही होगा हमेशा. नहीं खोल नहीं रहा. So what did we study? Avidya Pachya Sankhara. Because of ignorance, the mental formations happen. Chetana arises and we end up doing some karma. And Sankhara Pachya Vijnana. Every moment that Sankhara which arises gives rise to the next consciousness. And this happens at the time of death also. So we have a new consciousness. So this is how the so-called rebirth happens. And actually, as we have discussed, the person who is born is not the same as person who is dying. But it is not different also in the totally different meaning. So there is a kind of not the same and not the different also. So you can't really logically understand it in normal mathematical logic कि वो बंदा है कौन. So the best example given is cells, daughter cell and mother cell kind of a thing. That kind of example is usually seen to be nearest approximation of what is happening. And yesterday I was listening to that Ayya Khema. She said, if you just reflect deeply on this will reduce your sense of ego. Because you don't know where you come from, who was the person who died and who you were born. And you are taking all his deeds personally. उसने जो किया वही तुम्हारी कर्म stream में आया ना. So these are the contemplations which reduce your ego कि मैं ही सब कुछ कर रहा हूँ, मैंने ही सब कुछ किया है, मैं ही अपने आप को सुधार रहा हूँ. Whatever karma that person must have done, it's actually वो जो लामा गोविंद ने किया ना सूर्यदास की बहुत अच्छी है. Ownerless karma, which is just going on. You are taking it personally and suffering, adding to that stream more suffering for the next person who is going to be born. And yet, in the conventional sense, we say, I was there in that life, I was there. People who remember their past lives, they say, I was there. Because remembrance is there, no?
वो भी wrong view है.
Consciousness, yeah. But consciousness is carrying forward that memory, no? In a sense, there is continuity. Some stream is there, but strictly speaking, I can't say I was the person who was born. Just as I can't say by looking at my photograph of childhood that I was this. If I see my childhood photograph, and I am tempted to say I am this. This is what I was. This is me. It's not, obviously.
Yeah, that's the general convention.
वो कन्वेंशनल लेवल पे तो ही कहा जाता है.
तो यही बात है जो आप कह रहे हो कि है भी और नहीं भी.
अब इसको आप लॉजिक से कैसे समझेंगे? इसी बात को लेके जब फिलोसोफर डिस्कस करते हैं तो वो कहते हैं कि ये पता नहीं क्या है, वो ठीक से समझे नहीं है, कुछ तो होगा ही, कुछ तो है ही, कोई तो एक्सपीरियंस कर ही रहा है ना. अब उसको कैसे समझाया कि भाई एक्सपीरियंस है, एक्सपीरियंसर नहीं है? हाउ कैन यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? इट्स इम्पॉसिबल फॉर अ फिलोसोफर टू अंडरस्टैंड इट. That there is an experiencer, there is no experiencer.
Intellectual terms में हो ही नहीं सकता है.
बहुत मुश्किल है. But it's only those people who have that insights of modern science, then they are able to.
अच्छा वो पढ़ लेते हैं.
जनरल सिस्टम मेरे में एक किताब भी मैंने खरीदवाई थी, मैंने देखी थी नेट में, मतलब मुझे लगा अच्छी होगी. Conditional relations and general systems theory. So conditional relations is talking about Buddhist conditions. बच्चा है. So then I purchased it and I found that he has been able to, that person has been able, of course based on Erwin Laslow's philosophy, basically systems philosophy and the conditionality are very strongly similar. So it's a very amazing thing to see.
So intellectually भी मुमकिन है.
If you are in a position to come to that right understanding. I mean you get a intuitive sense. कि अगर सिस्टम्स में हो सकता है तो यहाँ भी हो सकता है. So sankhara paccaya vijnanam, so new consciousness is there, then vijnana paccaya nama rupam, because depending on the nature of consciousness would be the kind of body mind which you will get. If the consciousness which arises is of a very negative kind, the Nam-Rup will be of an animal form. Either an animal form or a hellish realm or some such realm. If the consciousness which arises is very exalted consciousness, then it can be born in a Deva realm, or if it is intermediate, it will be born as a human realm and so on. So this way, the Nam-Rupa will also be in tune with the Vijnana. So that is the overall perception, overall analysis. Then of course, which kind of linkage will operate, I have tried to put it. The rebirth linking or other kind of consciousness is a condition in ways as so many ways, in 9 ways, at rebirth linking or in the course of an existence. You can easily see that, because along with consciousness will arise, we already studied in Abhidhamma, along with consciousness will arise various other mental factors. Now this issue of nama also is a lot of contention. If you see the notes, I had written something, then I have cut it. If you see the notes, you will see that. What I initially thought, I was reading Vishuddhimagga and I wrote down that these are what Vishuddhimagga says is that the three aggregates other than consciousness are nama. But then I was reading something else and I remembered that Sariputta ने जो नाम का description दिया वो अलग है. Then when I saw that again, and in another book it was mentioned that nama is not just this, it is also includes the phassa and manasikara. So a bit of a technicality. So the arising of nama as these mental factors is of course governed by connaissance to hoga sahajata pachi hai because it arises simultaneously. Vigyan along with Vijnan they arise and they also mutually conditioning each other. Mutuality, this will be there, then that will also, they rest on each other. Then support and association obviously are there. And the key thing is it is a kamma result. This is the key thing which I underline. It is a vipaka chitta. It is a kamma vipaka. So the form which we get is going to be dependent on the kamma which is responsible for giving us the rebirth. So depending on that kamma will be the nature of form. That's why you would recall in the last discussion we had pointed out that if the consciousness is only investigative consciousness, the form will be some kind of a handicapped form. किसी की आँख नहीं होगी, कि कान नहीं होगा, कोई problem होगी, congenital defects because the consciousness is not strongly rooted. And then if it is unwholesome root, then it will be born as an animal. So the form will be of an animal. Form is changed and so on. So the kamma is the key thing which is going to govern both nama and form. The next one it is the physical form, rupa. As the rebirth linking, the rupa condition is again by the same 9 ways as in the case. And other than rebirth linking, then it becomes mostly post-nascence. You remember? Paschajata paschaya. Because the consciousness lasts one moment and other things last 17 moments. So consciousness which has arisen later also will affect the body which has arisen earlier. This I think we have already discussed in Paschajata paschaya.
तो सर ये बताइए, so let's say that the karma result has resulted in a higher realm, subtle birth. तो अब ये बताइए, there will be other karma streams that will also mature
in due course.
But if they are of the nature that are supposed to cause suffering, तो higher realm, subtle में तो कोई suffering नहीं है.
तो ये क्या है? At the end of that realm, that will happen. That's why you remember there is a sutta in which Buddha looks at a worm and tells the monks, this worm was in a Brahma realm in the last life.
तो वो suffering उसमें नहीं mature हो रही है, अगले उसमें हो रही है.
Because conditions are not ripe for maturing ना. कोई tree के conditions अगर ripe नहीं है तो fruit नहीं आएगा ना.
तो वही मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ ना कि फर्ज करिए वो mature हो गई, पर उसमें तो suffering
उस realm में नहीं होगी ना mature. उस realm में conditions ही नहीं है उसकी mature होने की. So वो mature होगी at the end of that realm. जब उसका वो पुण्य वाला संस्कार खत्म हो गया, then he is ready to take another birth. Imagine the suffering of a person who is born as a Brahma and ends up in a worm in a cesspool in Indra.
कितना strong karmic,
कितना strong flow है, and how much of, and in that realm they are able to foresee कि मैं यहाँ जा रहा हूँ. Yeah.
Subtle में ये अच्छा higher level में ये है.
Yeah, they are able to foresee. Then you can see what will be the suffering, enormous suffering he must be experiencing at that moment, just at the death moment.
तब ये sense होता है.
And then.
So there is this question that if root is strong, it will be an animal life.
Strong, unwholesome. Unwholesome. if it is dosha, for example, aversion of a very high order.
और भी condition factors हैं उसमें, it's not just only one.
Yeah, but that is the prominent conditioning factor. Moha तो रहेगा ना, all anuvansam chitta jala moha plus dosa means two rooted factors. So at the rebirth, if you see the notes, I have written that sentence. I think this you can be aware. Rebirth, the Patisandhi Chitta finds footing in the just single fertilized egg, which becomes conscious, a being with Rupa and Nama, but only Kaya Ayatana. Because at that time the other Salayatana is not there, only body is there. So according to this understanding, even at the moment of just after the conception, the being is conscious. There is consciousness.
क्यों आपने कहा ना सिर्फ काया वो होती है?
हाँ, but consciousness is there, no? Vijnana is there. There is nama, so there are feelings. There is a feeling. So that apparently a lump of mass has feeling, according to this understanding. Because Vijnana Pachya Nam Rupa. Naam भी होगा ना उसके साथ, रूप भी होगा. रूप के शेप में तो अभी वो पूरा डेवलप नहीं हुआ. It has not gone into 6, but the body contact is there. Form is there, contact is there.
और consciousness कहाँ है, क्या है?
विज्ञान है, जो विज्ञान आया पिछले जन्म से, जो आया नया rebirth linking consciousness. So that lump of mass
has some consciousness.
Normally we कई tradition में कहा जाता है ना, there is a intermediate bardo period of so many 48 days or something. So according to Theravada, this tradition it's not.
दरअसल बार्डो वार्डो तो छोड़िए, हमारे यहाँ भी जैसे अजान ब्रह्म ने इस पे मेरे ख्याल से किताब ही लिख डाली है पूरी, या he has a strong this thing on it. कि at what point do you consider the fetus to have consciousness?
That is a different issue. That's all right. That can happen. The point is that when the consciousness enters, we had studied, that Tanha, Mahatanha, the Sati wala Sutta tha. So when the Gandhamba is available, then the conception will take place. So according to that, at the conception time, Vijnana will be there. It is anybody's guess. What does it mean? How many weeks? This, that, I don't know. I can't figure out from there.
So what is happening? So consciousness is float कर रही है, looking for.
No, not floating. There is nothing to float around. It's a conditioned phenomenon.
So
at the time of death
only
consciousness is arisen, and wherever appropriate, it will just be reborn there.
Yeah. So to find that appropriateness, it will have to do something, no?
No, it's not having a car and it has to find a path for that kind.
Yeah.
It is a phenomena which is happening, arising and passing away instantaneously. हमारी consciousness एक के बाद दूसरी जब जाती है, it just arises automatically. The whole world is like an illusion to us. It seems real to us, and it seems that we have to go from here to there. यहाँ बैठे बैठे you think about moon and sun, and thought is gone. How much time does it take?
सर, तो जो डेथ के बाद 10 या 12 दिन का पीरियड होता है जिसके अंदर कहते हैं कि वहीं पर आत्मा होती है,
वो लॉर्ड बुद्धा डज नॉट, ही मैंने कल भी इनसे डिस्कस कर रहा था ना, that he mentions to the person that if the being is born in a hungry ghost realm, then that person is having that sensation of hunger and thirst. Then at that condition, if the relatives of that person, they offer some water, offer some fruit to somebody with the volition that may this go to our parent or whatever deceased, then that volition transfers to him and he feels satisfied. This is what Buddha says in one of the suttas. I don't remember which one, but this much I remember. So there is some person who is doing all this जो हम नॉर्मली करते हैं, इसे इसको पता भी है इससे क्या होगा. तो तुम ये भोजन दे रहे हो, तुम्हारे पिताजी वहाँ मान लीजिए उस दूसरे कमरे में बैठे हैं, या किसी को दोगे तो उनका पेट भर जाएगा क्या? नहीं, ऐसा नहीं था. Then why are you doing it? You're not understanding. So he explains it. Only if he is born as a hungry ghost, then your volition will be helpful to him, but otherwise it won't be. So I think I will try to search for that.
But doesn't your volition will be in that way transmitted to any realm? No? Why only
Yeah.
hungry ghost? Hungry ghost में क्या ऐसा भूमिका है?
Because there the need is there. Na? There is that sensation of thirst and hunger is hurting that person. Volition way it will be transmitted, and therefore the people say that children who are born, sometimes they smile, sometimes they laugh, sometimes they cry without any reason, and apparently they say, I don't know, that it is because their relatives behind in the past life are crying or happy or whatever. So maybe that's true, but I have not found it in teachings of the Buddha still. I'm just telling what I have found, that's all. Maybe it is there, I'm not denying it. It should, that effect of volition should be transmitted.
I mean, it's just intuitive.
Yeah, as metta जैसे हम practice करते हैं. We say, may this benefit reach to my relatives who are deceased, so it must be having some benefit. But probably the offerings which he was doing for food and all, that probably Buddha must have referred. I never see what is exactly the Sutta.
In the context of food and water.
I will have to see that exactly, because in metta we do say that may this go to my deceased relatives. May the fruit of my goodness be shared with them. I share with them. So it must be having some effect on them. But of course, Buddha always says it is having effect on you. We say that it is having effect on them. So metta practice is always saying that metta is for the benefit of you, your benefit. He always says, what are the benefits of metta? So he says, so these benefits. Person does not get frightened, he has a peaceful sleep, he becomes good, people become, he doesn't have enemies, he doesn't have, so many things. The poisons cannot kill him, and so many things are said as the benefits of metta practice. But I have not seen exactly where it is said that this is going to influence other person. मैंने अभी देखा नहीं, होगा कहीं, हो सकता है कहीं. But this kind of understanding is there in the tradition. This kind of जैसे परिता है, same kind of traditional बातें चली आ रही हैं. Maybe it is in the commentaries, maybe it is there in the commentaries, or maybe in the Vishuddhimagga, maybe there. Yes, I don't remember all that I have studied there.
So there is this question from Meenakshi, is that how to develop that consciousness and see things in the light of consciousness in day-to-day life?
That is our practice basically. Here we are just, here the description is being given how things are happening. How to develop better, wholesome states of mind through the practice of Dhamma. Practice of Shila, Samadhi, Panya, they are the things. Here it is only a description of what is happening. This is what is happening. If this kind of vijnana arises, this is what will happen.
So there is one more question, that vijnana leading to Nam-Rupa means that just one cell with consciousness at the time of conception.
Yeah, that's what. That's why I have underlined it. If you see the note, I underlined it because it was written in that Vishuddhimagga.
Vishuddhimagga se
I think either Vishuddhimagga or that Venerable Paito's book, which is another very powerful book on. And it happens at every moment also. No? We are studying both the things simultaneously. Every moment also, what consciousness arises, our body takes that shape. If consciousness arises imbued with anger and we express it, the whole body becomes of that kind. Isn't it? Consciousness of love arises, metta arises, our body excludes that. name and form gets, subtly transformed in that form. गुस्सा आ जाता है तो तमतमा जाता चेहरा है ना. So the name and form are getting conditioned by that, even during our day-to-day life. Then Nama Rupa Pachya Salayatan. So the Nama and Rupa condition the six sense bases. It's quite obvious. And the kind of conditionings are there given. I have written in 119. And here again I have underlined the Kamma result is the key conditionality. Kamma Pachyo tha na hamara. This Sahajata Pachyo, Anyamanya Pachyo, Nissay Pachyo, and presence was Athi Pachyo, Sampayutta Pachyo, and Vigata Pachyo. So we already seen presence and non-disappearance are similar. Support, it is obviously support of that. So, and it is conescence, it is arising simultaneously. So for different situations, what are the conditions? I have just written. We don't need to really get into that, but I wrote it for the sake of understanding, so that we can see it's not just one conditioning which is operating. So many simultaneously, it is arising together, it is also reciprocally influencing it, it's also supporting it, it's also present with that. So these are so many types of conditionalities which operate when Nama is in association basis is the condition for the mind base. Then similarly for the physical basis, and then physical sense organs. So this is how the Salayatan is explained. So as I put down in the notes, as Namarupa arising at conception matures, six sense faculties develop. At rebirth, only the body faculty and Vijnana faculty are present. Later, other faculties develop in embryo. This is what is written as in the commentaries. Then further for the Rupa, I have given conditions I have noted down in the 120, slide number 120. The Rupa, the materiality of the physical base, is a condition in rebirth linking in C ways, and in general it is conditioned in 4 ways for any of the 5 bases beginning with eye and ears and all other things. So the 4 primaries meaning the earth, air, fire, water, all that, and the Rupa is the materiality. So it is we know it is a physical basis for everything. For the senses to operate, it is the physical basis. So I will not get into detail because we already discussed it while discussing Pachya. The next link is Salayatan Pachya Hassa, which we talked about today also. We had read Nam, Rupa and Hassa issue. So Hassa is basically the contact of coming together of consciousness with sense objects and sense faculty. I have been also reading this book by Venerable Jnanananda. He also, of course, has a slightly different way of interpreting this link, Salayatan Pachya Hassa. Says this is happening because of the base of ignorance. Otherwise, you can avoid that. If the ignorance was not there, there is no need for them to get together, and because once the Phassa happens, then everything else will follow. Once Phassa happens, then Phassa Pachya Vedana hone wala, Vedana hoga to phir aage ignorance hoga to tanha hoga. So he points out that this is usually missed out. So, but that is his way, because nobody else I have seen interpret in that manner. So 5 sense bases consisting of eye, ear, nose, etc. They condition the Phassa in 6 different ways. As support, meaning Nissaya, pre-nascence meaning Purejata, faculty, Indriya, dissociation means Vipayutta, Athi, and Abhigata Pachya. So these are the contact, obviously, because contact is going to be supported by the sense bases, and the sense bases have to be present before the contact can happen. So it is pre-nascence, and they are like the faculties, they are indriyas. So this way the conditions are identified. When we come to Phassa Pachaya Vedana, we know already quite well all that the contact at every door will result in corresponding feeling. And this is in 8 ways. Cognizance means Sahajata. It is arising together, they are mutually influencing each other, and it is Phassa is providing the support, because on that support only the consequences will happen. It happens for all the 5 senses as well as for the mind doors. That is Manovinyana also. At that level also Manophassa, the Vedana will arise. So, when a thought arises, then also there is a feeling associated with it. We like the thought, not like the thought. And yesterday we had very interesting discussion on this issue yesterday in IIT. And we were discussing Madhubandaka Sutta, where the issue of perception is discussed. So, point was raised by one of my friends that when you say perception is influencing Vedana, then do you mean to say that if I take something sweet, I will not feel sweet, and if I take something bitter, it will not be feeling bitter? So, after some discussion, the clarity emerged, and I pointed out that there is a difference between feeling and sensation. That is where the things come. When the tongue comes in contact with something sweet, there is a sensation of sweetness, because that is the nature of tongue. You can say rasa. Okay, so if you see it in the words properly, it will be jivva cha paticche raso cha upajjati jivva vinyana tinnam sangati phassa pachaya vedana. So the vinyana, jivva vinyana which arises, it identifies it as sweet or bitter. But the feeling which arises will depend on will be governed strongly by perception. So somebody may take something sweet. It's not necessary that he will feel good about it. Somebody may take something bitter. It's not necessary that he will feel bad about it. So that yesterday, then everybody understood it. Yeah, that's it. Because otherwise it gives a wrong impression. Because feeling arises कि भाई ये तो सबको ऐसा ही लगेगा, मीठा तो मीठा ही लगेगा, of course, गरम तो गरम ही लगेगा, of course, but गरम जो है किसी को अच्छा लगेगा, किसी को बुरा लगेगा, मीठा किसी को अच्छा लगेगा, किसी so that issue of Phassa Pachaya Vedana is important to see. That contact will give the consciousness which will arise when you hear something. Then I pointed out, when you hear, some people have a taste for classical music, some people just don't have taste for classical music. So the sound is the same, but the Vedana which is causing is totally different because of the perception. So we have to see how this conditioning happens. That was quite a interesting discussion. So I thought I'll share with you about the Vedana and the contact.
So contact से क्या है Phassa Pachaya?
Vedana. Phassa means the contact of all the three, the linking of consciousness, sense object and the sense base.
So Vedana will be what it is.
Vedana will be conditioned by the perception, Anya. That's what point I was making yesterday also. And Vedana in turn conditions perception also. But Vedana will also be strong because a perception has developed that sweet things are not good for me. A perception has developed I should not take milk. Then it does not mean that when you take ice cream it will appear bitter to you. It will be sweet, but you don't like it. Because perception has conditioned your Vedana in such a manner that you don't like it, you don't feel good. So Vedana is only of three kinds: pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. While touch can be sweet, bitter, noise, music, hot, cold.
So touch is objective.
Yeah, it is dependent on the relationship, because what is happening at the sense door, we normally think of touch only in this sense, body touching something. But touch is going first, it happen at every sense door. At jiva also, there will be a physical contact as well as there will be a rasa which will interact. So when you take food, there is a physical contact of the food with the tongue. So that is phassa that is touch in the bodily sensation. But there is also a the sensation arising because of the nature of tongue.
That is not Vedana.
That is only sweetness or bitterness or sourness.
Yeah.
But how we respond to that contact is going to be Vedana. So Vedana is not sweetness or bitterness. Vedana is Sukha Vedana or Dukha Vedana. Whether you feel good, pleasant about it, or you feel unpleasant.
And that is governed by perception.
Yeah. That is, they are influenced each other. So this is a very important distinction which you should make. Otherwise we get into confusions. So yesterday that helped us in clarifying the confusion. So that's why I am pointing it out.
And so Nirmala ji has given her experience that she had heard or read somewhere that milk chocolate has some amount of cockroach parts. Since then, eating chocolate is not giving good feeling, though it's still sweet.
Yeah, perception is very, very important. Very, very important. Once a person has been diagnosed with diabetes, he may be having great taste of sweetness. Then he'll be frightened. वो देखते ही डर जा रहा है कि मुझे खाने में मत कह देना. ऐसा नहीं कि उसको अच्छा नहीं लगता है. इसका टेस्ट उसको पसंद है, but he knows it will give a wrong, bad feeling. Yeah, that's the kind of discriminative understanding we should develop. Then we come to Vedana Pachaya.
Can the phassa be then be clarified as the bare sensitivity?
Phassa is actually contact of all of them. The sensitivity will be cognition. Vedana. Jiva Vijnana. Jiva Vijnana, isn't it? Jiva Vijnana will do what? It will identify the rasa. It will cognize the rasa. Sota Vijnana will identify the sound. Kaya Vijnana will identify bodily sensation. So when we practice Vipassana in this our Goenkaji's method, then we are actually feeling Kaya Vijnana and there is feeling Kaya Vedana arising because of that. So that was, if you want to describe it in proper Abhidhammic terms, you will say Kaya cha paticca photabba cha upajjati Kaya Vijnana. There is Kaya, there is touch, and Kaya Vijnana is arising. Tinnam Sangati Phassa. All the three contact together when they operate in tandem, coordinated way, that is the Phassa. Phassa Pachaya Vedana. So on that basis a Vedana arises. So it is pleasant or unpleasant. Not hot and cold. Hot and cold is not Vedana. Hot and cold is sensation.
So हमने sensation और Vedana को
that's what needs to be seen clearly. So it's important that we should be clear on that. That's why
sensation का हिंदी क्या है?
संवेदना कहते हैं, गुरुजी ने तो ये बनाया ना उसका translation.
But just now we are discussing that Vedana is not that.
Yeah, but it has been conflated because that distinction is difficult to comprehend because of that reason. Because if you don't have that complete base, then you will not be able to comprehend.
So semantically, what is phassa?
Phassa is, you can't say it. You can't put it in the Hindi words. You can't make it Hindi word for it. That's why English में touch बोल दिया उसको, contact बोल दिया. अब contact का मतलब तो ये होता है contact का. We only understand that. By contact, normal language में तो we understand physical contact. That will produce physical sensation. That will produce physical Vedana. Now when you take food, you have both physical Vedana and Jiva Vedana. Vedana arises at each sense door.
Correct.
So and you are doing all the things. Food में तो सारी sense door operate करते हैं ना. Seeing operates. So you have Vedana at the eye. खाना देखने में अच्छा नहीं लग रहा, सुनने में अच्छा नहीं लग रहा, टेस्ट में अच्छा नहीं लग रहा, टच में अच्छा लग रहा, इतना ठंडा है, टच है ना, दैट इज टच. इतना गर्म है, चाय इतनी गर्म है, सो दैट इज टच. Then there is taste. Then there is smell. All these things are operating. Then there is sound. So all the senses operate in. That's why he said mindful eating. If you practice, you are practicing at all the sense doors. That's why we in our workshops we do that with the students. बिस्कुट पकड़ा देते कहते हैं जरा खाना नहीं बस बताएंगे तुमको कैसे खाना है स्टार्ट लाफिंग क्या है हमको बिस्कुट खाना सिखाओगे ओके जस्ट वेट so if you practice in accordance with the understanding of this Abhidhamma or Madhubandaka Sutta, whatever you want to call it, then you begin to see the things impersonally. इसी तरह से तोड़ने से ही तो impersonality आती है ना अदरवाइज तो मैं खा रहा हूँ और मुझे अच्छा लग रहा है पीरियड नथिंग
So there was this comment that first means sparsh.
Yeah. But in Hindi, sparsh will be again the same thing.
Same thing.
अब स्पर्श उसको आप साउंड पे स्पर्श कैसे कहोगे टेस्ट पे स्पर्श करोगे तो फिर वही साउंड पे स्पर्श तो कर ही नहीं पाओगे किसी तरह से व्हाट डज इट मीन दैट इट्स द इक्विवेलेंट ऑफ दैट इन हिंदी इज स्पर्श दैट इज ट्रू so we'll stop here for the day.
So any more questions please write in the chat box. So there's this comment that it would be good if sir shares the mindful eating workshop details. Oftentimes we eat while the session goes on because of hunger.
Yeah, okay, we'll discuss it.
Maybe उसकी मेरे पास ऑडियो रिकॉर्डिंग तो शायद होगी एक बार हमने आईटी में करी थी उसमें स्लाइड्स नहीं है बट ऑडियो रिकॉर्डिंग है so that also I can
we can discuss it next time. We'll discuss.
Any more questions for today?
There is also a video available and of all the places from Harvard Medical School on mindful eating.
Yeah.
So I think you can see that also has, it doesn't give in that sense, but it mentions 7 steps of mindful eating.
अच्छा हाँ
Yeah. It is a proper research done by Harvard Medical School. So I show that in my workshop in IIT, so that because Harvard की चीजें लोगों को जल्दी समझ में आती हैं, हमारी बात उतनी समझ में नहीं आती. So that you can do Google and search. I think वो immediately मिल जाएगा because it's quite easily known. It is a book. Based on a book which is written by the Harvard faculty along with Thich Nhat Hanh of the surprise. She has written that book called Savor or something. YouTube में देखोगे ना आप, if you see in search in YouTube, you'll get that mindful eating. Cheong या कुछ ऐसा उस लेडी का नाम
Lilian Cheung.
हाँ लिलियन चेंग
Save where mindful
that
eating
is-
mindful life.
या तो इसका लिंक आप भेज दो.
Yeah.
So this book, this small video gives a very reasonably good idea of what mindful eating should be. And then we can discuss it because some of the things are not very clear. Honoring the food we were discussing yesterday, the other day, that it has to be understood properly.
Okay. No more questions. So we don't have the class next week.
Yeah, next Sunday or both IT experts are not available. One will be in USA, another will be in Manali.
अच्छा अमेरिका जा रहा है राजेश
राजेश तो अमेरिका जा रहा है ना आज.
He is flying
ओह
tonight and will be back on Saturday evening.
So, अच्छा, he had met Shilesh last time, no?
Yeah, both Silesians.
Yeah. So Rajesh is now going to be a frequent traveler to US.
Yeah,
अच्छा ऐसा है
actually,
क्या
His